I've been thinking one of the most important things to learn about life and learn about the world that pretty much every single religious person in the world doesn't really know this. Otherwise, if they knew it, they wouldn't be religious. And that is the primitive mind that we have. Now, I've called this the reptilian brain before, and people freak out and they think I'm talking about some kind of alien thing. And I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about what every scientist knows that understands the way the human body works, and um, throwbacks from our evolution is that we have a flight or fight mechanism inside our bodies in our brainstem that is a primitive part of us. And when we look at some of the animals, okay, you feel like your cat loves you and things like that. That's great. And animals are wonderful pets and things like that. Sometimes we have animals that have some very, very basic instincts, and that is, you know, fight or flight, kill or be killed, seeing everything as a possible meal for them, something to compete with. These are all some very, very basic instincts, right? That have to do with survival. Really, it's about survival. And when we look at people that become overwhelmed with some kind of instinctive fight or flight mechanism, whether they are soldiers or whether they're in the military in general, but also these can be people that become so greedy, all they want to do is hoard. They want to hoard money. They want to hoard resources. They're just look at everyone as an enemy instead of the idea that we can cooperate together. So this primitive mind, this can cause us, and I've observed it in myself. It'll give us impulses. We have addictions. Maybe we have a I've struggled with a food addiction, and it's amazing to me when I look at this objectively, this primitive mind type of a thing, and how I have heeded its commands. I've obeyed those impulses when really what I needed to do was stop and say, wait a second, does this fit my plan? Does this fit who I want to be? Does it fit my goals? So part of this primitive mind awareness has to do with being able to contrast compulsive, impulsive, addicted behavior and contrast that with, well, who am I in life? Who do I want to be in life? What are my goals? What's meaningful to me in my life? And is this behavior, is this rumination, is this thinking, this impulse, is it in line with that or not? So this is where we have consciousness. This is where we have awareness. This is the decision point. And this is so incredibly significant. Now, what people sometimes get caught up in is some very sick, very crazy, very dangerous ideology. People get caught up in fear, and they're cowardly and they avoid confronting problems. We all do this. It's part of us because we've all got this. Now, some people are pretty good at overcoming it. And I think, okay, great. Some of them learned how to, and it's through their own focus, their own skill, their own will. And I think most of the people that overcome their primitive mind and find discipline and reach their goals, and goals that are not based upon insanity, like killing others or greed or anything that doesn't contribute to a compassionate lifestyle, a lifestyle where we can get along and cooperate together and build a better world. As long as we are not motivated by those things, we can be successful in our lives. And I think intelligence is completely aligned with compassion. I don't care about your IQ. I care about how compassionate are you. Well, when we look at the world, we can see the results of most of the people that are in power, most of the people that follow those in power are not compassionate. They're power hungry. They're lemmings. They're not aware. They just follow because they don't understand this concept of being driven by primitive impulses and primitive rationalizations. Oh, I'm just going to buy some cookies, like for me, example, because I'm overweight and I'm learning how to deal with that monster inside of me, this primitive part that just wants to get all of the oil, all of the salt, all of the sugar that he can, because he's afraid of starving all the time. And I've got that in my genetic makeup, in my DNA, in my brain. That's the primitive part of me. So I use this illustration about food. Oh, okay. Well, cookies aren't going to kill me. One cookie a day is not going to kill me. You buy a box of cookies. And I'm just saying, okay, that's it. I'm just going to have one a day. This impulse came from the primitive brain, and the primitive brain wants to have these cookies because it's a source of sugar and some fat, maybe. And so it can make me feel like I'm surviving, because as a primitive animal, you know, we went after these things. These were things were hard to find, so we had a craving for them, and they helped our body be stronger. Well, now it's so available. I can just go to the supermarket, I can buy a box of cookies, and I can lie to myself, rationalization from the primitive brain, the cowardly primitive brain. I'm just going to have one cookie a day because of my weakness, because of my listening to the impulses, because of my listening to that rationalization. I'll kill off that box in the first day. I'll put it away and then I'll take it back out again. I'll put it away, I'll take it back out again. Have another cookie, have another. Okay, I'm only gonna have this row. And that's justification. That's rationalization. And that's me allowing my primitive brain that craves these things and thinks there's a shortage of these things and overwhelms my logic and my awareness. And what I've chosen as a meaningful life, and I've given into it. I've given into it a million times, and I never really realized until recently, oh, that's the primitive brain doing that. So I need to be the gatekeeper. I need to be the person who's going to say, wait a second, am I going to listen to that or not? Am I going to obey that or not? Does that contribute to me being a compassionate person who's trying to do good in this world, who finds a meaningful life in doing whatever he can to save the world? And I think maybe there are billions, there are 8 billion people on this planet Earth right now. Maybe there are billions of people that really want to do that, but they give into their primitive brain. And they're not in a position. I'm in a position. I'm lucky. Some people are still stuck under rubble in Syria. It's just a heartbreaker. Poorly made buildings, an earthquake too strong for people to anticipate and prepare for. Poorly organized communities that are unable to respond quickly, not working together as a community. I mean, a perfect example is the US government sanctioning Syria. And all it's doing is hurting the Syrian people. It's not hurting the leadership. It never does. It didn't in Iraq with Saddam Hussein, even after they killed 1 million kids. It didn't help. These are primitive things. This hunger for power. Why? Because if you have power, you can survive better, right? It makes sense. It's not good, it's not bad, but look at the results. So do we want to be that way? Do we want to think about having that power? It's ridiculous. I'm going to talk more coming up about the power mongers, the power hungry psychopaths that are running governments, that are in charge of hundreds of millions of people in the world based upon just being power hungry. Their primitive brain has taken them over completely, and the culture around them is not helping them to see how wrong it is, how bad it is, how destructive it is. It blows my mind. This world just blows my mind. Anyway, I gotta go. Have a wonderful day. Be aware of that primitive brain. What is it influencing you to do or not do?